Happy International Nelson Mandela Day. We hope that you had a moment to pay it forward and share the love across the world, as we know that the iconic leader being celebrated on the day of his birthday. Now, 67,000 litres may seem like a lot, but for chefs with compassion, it's just another Mandela Day. Over 90 kitchens around the country are cooking 67,000 litres of soup today, and it's to provide food to vulnerable communities. The event also highlights the issue of food waste and hunger in South Africa. We're joined now by Chef Coo Pillay, the founding director of Chefs with Compassion. Chef, thanks so much for joining us and good afternoon. Happy Nelson Mandela Day. And this is the best gift, I guess, one would give to especially the most vulnerable who would not be able to put food on the table. And that gesture alone is a lifeline. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Cindy. Absolutely. And, what a special day this is. And it's the spirit of Madiba that we can feel the Madiba magic that's still upon us. And as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Mandela Day, it's really special. But as you mentioned, it's also an awareness to the two major problems that we have, which is food waste and hunger.
And that's exactly the contradiction, because there's one opulence on the other side and wastage, and on the other side we know that millions of South Africans go to bed hungry. We just say these statistics as if it's in the periphery, and people are starving amongst us. So how does Chefs with Compassion, go beyond the 67 minutes and beyond Nelson Mandela Day in providing much needed nutrition?
So Cindy, for us, every day is Mandela Day. This is what we do 365 days a year. As you know, people need to eat, and we need to fill in that gap. And that's what Chefs of Compassion does on a daily basis. We have in excess of about 35,000 people daily that are reliant on our kitchens. And we've got to work together. We've got to work as a community, as corporates, public sector, private sector. We've all got to come together. And this is what we use Mandela Day for, to highlight this in terms of what Chefs of Compassion does. And these are our three values system or pillars that we work on, which is rescue, cook, and feed.
Okay, and feeding in itself requires for you to have groceries. You need to buy the produce that you're going to prepare for the vulnerable communities. I know there seems to be a policy, either with the restaurants or the hospitality industry, that they may be reluctant to donate food because of fear of possible contamination. Is that also part of the problem, why we see so much wastage, for example?
Absolutely. And we don't actually buy the food. We actually rescue the food before it gets onto the landfill. And this is why we've got to work together, especially with government. And we need this regulated so that, food suppliers, retailers, as well as the hotel industry can comply if there is an act that allows for food donations to take place. And that is also quite concerning, is that due to the fact that there is no regulation, that manufacturers and producers, as well as the retail industry, end up disposing of good produce.
Okay, so where do you intercept the produce, and how does it all work in putting together and making sure that the food is safe and good for consumption?
So we have our food warriors that are at the markets on a daily basis. We also go to farms, producers and manufacturers, and we actually get this produce before it actually ends up onto the landfill. It then comes into our share house, where our group of volunteers sort all the produce, and food that is not fit for consumption actually gets disposed of, and then the food that is able to be consumed then gets prepped and then sent out to our various kitchens to cook and prepare these meals.
But it seems also that the need is just growing. The gap is widening between the haves and the have-nots. We often speak about the disparities in just the quality of life that people have, let alone not having access to basic services like portable, safe drinking water, electricity. These are indigent people who probably depend largely on the state just for survival. On a day-to-day basis, Chef, just the interaction that you have with people that you are servicing, what is their level of gratitude? I suppose this is what also would give you a sense of reward.
You know, it's just that humbleness and people who are so grateful for what they receive from us. People are not fussy because the meals that we produce are hearty, but they're also nutritional because they are cooked by chefs, and that's what we're finding on the ground. You know, we started this.
Chef, your line is a bit, I think we're just having a little bit of a technical glitch where Chef Coo Pillay is. I think we have you back now. And I also want to speak not only to what you're extending to vulnerable communities, but it's something that we can do on a daily. You know, humility doesn't have an expiry date. It doesn't come with airs and graces. Humility is just understanding that I'm equally as human as you are, as mere mortals. We are here to serve each other. Are you finding that message has been, you know, it permeates beyond just Nelson Mandela Day?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, what we're finding on the ground is people are so humble and so grateful for what we do. And, you know, as they say, charity begins at home and everybody can make a difference. You know, we have people in need in our own communities. I mean, if you just drive through the suburbs, you'll always find people at the robots, in the, you know, parking lot at the shopping centers. We can make a difference. And, you know, one of the things that Nelson Mandela has taught us is that each one feed one. You know, if we just make an example of one person and that person goes and pays it forward to the next person, we can really together, you know, end this crisis that we have. And we, as South Africans, you know, we have shown how when we come together, we can achieve the impossible.
And certainly we're very resilient as a nation, but beyond just the random acts of kindness or the 67 minutes is also the concept of Ubuntu, which we very often throw around as one of those feather in the cap of the uniqueness of South Africa. But what this essentially means is that we can deal with societal issues even before it gets to a breaking point. Mental health, if you just check on your neighbor, are you okay? I've got a little bit extra potatoes, you know, can I help you with the lawn, for example? You know, that's the kind of spirit that we espouse and need to practice more often.
Absolutely, and this is the you know, the spirit that you mentioned is what I actually witnessed today. I mean, I spent the day driving around Johannesburg, and I went from the opulent areas like Harton to Sandton, you know, to the heart of our communities in Alexandra. I've just come back from a community just outside Randburg, and now currently we're in Randburg, and I've just seen, you know, people have put their differences aside and have just come together. But you're so right, because this is not just a problem where people are destitute, but I think over the last year, with the effects that we've seen, you know, with load shedding, with the economic crisis that we're in, is that, you know, people's incomes have been stretched to the limit. So, you know, where we can lend a helping hand, this is what the spirit of Ubuntu is all about. You know, if we can save our neighbor, you know, a few rands and help them do their shopping, or as you said, you know, can I assist to cut your lawn? And this is what it's all about.
Spreading the love and multiplying the joy, indeed. Thank you so much. That's a Chef Coo Pillay speaking to us about the initiative that they've embarked on over the years. He is the director or the founding director of Chefs with Compassion. They run 90 kitchens around Johannesburg, feeding at least over 67,000 litres, or making 67,000 litres of soup on a daily basis, and feeding the most vulnerable in society. We are